Hi, everybody, and welcome to the first office hours for OMS-CS 6300. So for the summer offering of the course. And I'm going to wait a second before starting because being the first one, there's always some hiccups. Plus, this was, and I apologize for that, posted sort of last minute. So I'm not sure how many people are going to be able to make it here. So I'm going to start in checking the counter. So it seems like people are connecting. So we are probably live, and you guys have the right link, and then so we can start. So the buffers are full, and so on and so forth. So I'm Alex Orso. I'm the instructor of record for the course, and also the creator of the course. Normally, I do office hours at a different time. So unfortunately, this for a few weeks, I'm gonna be in Europe for various events and trips, and so it's gonna be, we're gonna try to figure out a time that hopefully works reasonably well for me and for the TAs. And after that, we'll just go back to the normal time, which is either 6 p.m. or 9 p.m. Atlanta time, so Eastern time, and that typically works better for everybody. So again, apologies for the short notice. It's been tough to find a time, and apologies for the time that might be inconvenient for more people than it could be otherwise. Having said that, also I'm normally doing office hours with my head TAs, Erin and Will. And today, unfortunately, Will could not connect to office hours during his lunch break because he had an event in the afternoon, and so he had to work through lunch. And Erin is trying to connect, as far as I know, but she's outside the office, so she's probably looking for a spot that is quiet enough and with a good enough connection that she can connect. So let's, fingers crossed, and let's hope for the best. I'm not expecting many questions today because, I mean, there's already quite a bit of activity on Piazza, and so probably a lot of the questions about the assignments are being asked there. So what I'm going to do mainly is, first of all, introduce myself. I want to introduce the head TAs, and that's going to happen one of the next office hours. And by the way, also throughout the office hours, I'm going to try to have all of the TAs show up at least once, so that you'll be able to put a name together with a face, so you'll know that the person who grades your assignment and recognize it, which I think it's always nice instead of just seeing a name. And my Google chat is beeping, so let me just check to see whether it's Will. Okay, it's actually Will and Erin. Apparently my invite didn't reach them, so let me send this, the link to them. I invited you, but apparently didn't get it. Okay, so we should see at least Erin appearing soon. So let me start while Erin appears to give you some information about the class. Oh, and Erin is here, so let me. Well, that's fantastic. Erin is outside, which is always nicer than being in a semi-dark room. So I'm gonna let Erin introduce herself, and then we're gonna we can start with my announcements. By the way, Erin, if you also want to mention the grading policy after you introduce yourself, so what we normally try to do in terms of how quickly or we return your assignments graded, please do so as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can see I'm outside because this is my lunch hour, and I can't use the phone in the building. And I am fail at keeping track of my Bluetooth headset, so I don't even have one.
The audio is pretty good, though.
Well, I'll try to hit mute when I'm not talking. So I'm Erin, and we posted some introduction threads on Piazza. I guess as far as the grading, like, we usually aim for about 2 weeks after the assignment closes. Keep in mind the assignment closes on a Monday. The TAs tend to have a lot more work time on the weekends. So If it runs late, it probably runs a whole week late. It sounds like a long time, and it will feel long because it always does, just whenever you're waiting on anything. But it's really necessary to coordinate the grades back and forth and to be able to get them back, check them, make sure we're all in sync. We're trying to, you'll see some of the, like the survey was a little bit faster because that's just pretty much automatic. Trying to think, is there anything else in particular you were thinking of? Oh, did he vanish? Okay, I'm not sure if you see me now. Or if I disconnected or he did. Okay, I think he disconnected. Hopefully he'll reconnect in a minute. I'm on my phone, so it's a little bit difficult to see the questions back and forth. I guess I can hit a few more of the usual things while I wait for something to appear. Let's see. You do need to keep all of your submissions in the repo we assigned you. And it just says he left the call, so hopefully he's reconnecting. You need to push a single commit ID in Canvas for all of your turn-ins for anything in the repo, because that's all we'll see. We won't see comments you make to us in Canvas or something, and yay, you're back. And now I don't see you again. Are you back now?
I'm back. So I also failed to mention that this week I'm also in a particularly bad situation in terms of internet connection. So I was hoping this was not going to happen, but it did happen. So I'm using a wireless modem which crashed basically after the first 5 minutes of connection. So anyways, I'm connected through my phone, so hopefully that will be a little better. But
it's really hard to tell on the phone when you vanished or not, because I can only see so much and don't have extra windows.
I see. Okay. So gladly it happened while you were giving the introduction, so at least it wasn't just a dead silence, and that was it. So I'm assuming that you're done discussing the grades.
I think so, unless there's something I've forgotten that you wanted covered. Mostly it's just the 2 weeks expecting it. Let's see. Grade challenges you do on Piazza in a private post to all instructors. Do post to all instructors. If you post to just one of us, even if you think you've got the right one, you might not, and then we'll not see it. It's really easy for us to think that the right person is seeing the message when they can't.
And I think you mentioned also the fact that one of the reasons why it takes us some time to grade is because we really have a kind of synchronization phase, which is unfortunately with that many students and that many TAs, we feel it's important so that you don't have somebody with an average of 70 and somebody with an average of 90. And so that's one of the reasons why sometimes if it's a time in which we're ready to release the grades and we see these discrepancies, we need to go back and basically check some of the assignments. So again, it's in this, for the sake of fairness, and we do our best to be, as quick as we can. Just sometimes there are hiccups. So that's, but feel free, if you don't see grades in 2 weeks, feel free to ask about them so we don't get offended. And so we'll, if it's our fault, we're more than happy to to do also our best to catch up.
We usually do try to give you an update on grading status in the office hours. So I'd pop into the last office hours and check to see what we said at the beginning. That'll probably give you the best update. because we count on multiple TAs, usually that's the point in the week when we've checked in to make sure we know how everybody's doing. An update later might not really tell you much more than we knew during office hours. Oh, look, Will.
Oh, and we also have Will, so perfect timing. So I know that Will, has to work. So I think the idea is just gonna say hi and introduce himself. If that's not the case and he can stay longer, even better. But otherwise, I'm gonna just kind of leave him the stage right away so that he can introduce himself. Will, all yours.
He's showing as muted. Maybe he's not fully in.
Let's see. So I just put him on the spot with him not hearing what we're saying, maybe. Well, so I'll do the introductions for Will. So this is Will Johnson. Not sure he can hear us or not. If he starts hearing us, Will, please jump in. Otherwise, I'm going to start with the announcements, but at least you had a chance to see him in the flesh. And there you go. Okay, so now going to the announcement. So basically what I'd like to do, make sure, well, I know that, the problem is that, I do the office hours for people who normally also read the welcome message. People who didn't read the welcome message are not going to watch office hours, so it's sort of a circular thing. But anyways, I still going to mention it, that please make sure to read the welcome message. We really try to put all the information that you need, and we, kind of improve it slightly every semester. At this point, we're pretty much at the, kind of on a asymptote, because I think we put all the information that we can put. Oh yeah, Will is complaining that the firewall is blocking him. So I'm gonna let, while I give the announcement, Erin, see if you can, if you can figure out what's going on and if there's something we can do. But let me go with the announcement, which basically means just reiterating the main points on the welcome message. But first of all, platforms. Udacity, make sure that you access the Udacity videos through the schedule, because Udacity is using these materials for different purposes. So there are some videos that are at this point obsolete or that we don't use anymore. And so for these ones, if you just follow the regular flow, sometimes you end up watching videos that you don't have to watch. So just be careful for that, because sometimes we get questions. Oh, what is this video about? Well, nothing really, at least nothing related to the class. So just follow the links on the schedule and you'll be fine. Also, logging into the GT portal. There's people who have had issues with the Udacity access to the Udacity materials. In many cases, it's due to registration issues, so double check those. If not, make sure to contact the technical. You should have an email address for the technical issues, and they can, see if they can figure it out. There's nothing we can do really, because this is infrastructure basically. But you can still post on Piazza, of course. Maybe somebody has information about that. The other thing is Piazza. So Piazza is the forum in which you communicate with the class and with us. So please do not send us private messages. Better following Piazza than following messages. Sometimes it just pile up. And second of all, it's very good to have messages on Piazza, because you can keep track of what's going on instead of having to search for things. So make sure that you post on Piazza, and make sure that you read Piazza so that you don't post the same thing multiple times. And you can use your best judgment whether to post privately or publicly. In many cases, we make something public, something private public if it's a public utility, and we do also the other way around if it's revealing too much information. So in particular, you're not supposed to share anything about solutions or anything that is a FERPA violation, for example, about your grades publicly on Piazza. So please do not do that. And because even if we change the visibility, if people get email about the Piazza messages, they will get the information anyways. Canvas is the new platform since I guess last semester for the class. And this is where you submit your assignments and you get your assignments. So Canvas is the final word about assignments, both to get them and to submit them. And make sure that you understand the submission deadlines, which are almost always on Friday night anywhere on Earth, which basically means it's the latest midnight on Earth, and which turns out to be either 7 or 8 a.m. depending on the daylight saving at the moment, Atlanta time, so Eastern time. So that is the deadline. Make also sure we mention it on the welcome message. Make sure that you set the time zone on Canvas so that you see the deadline for your local time. Because it happened, it's not very common, but it happened. The student complain and say, "Oh, I thought it was 8 o'clock my time, or it was midnight my time." No, so it's really the time that Canvas tells you. So make sure that you put there your time zone so that you're not going to have any trouble. Second thing is there's one deadline and then there is one late deadline. So if you even if you submit at the right time, if you resubmit after the regular deadline and in the kind of late submission period, you're gonna get the late submission deduction, just because, of course, submitting on time doesn't change the fact that you kept working on the assignment. So be careful, because if you submit on time, you're gonna get your full grade. If you submit between the regular deadline and the late deadline, which is 2 days later, then you're gonna get a 50% deduction on your grade. And as I said, there's really we very, 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 very rarely make exceptions, except for very exceptional cases. And the reason is that with a very large class, I put that in the message, every week there is some exceptional situation, which in some cases is not really that exceptional. So it happens, quite a bit. Somebody was, again, I didn't set the time zone correctly. I was late. I had like extra work. I had a trip. So we understand that there are exceptions, but you can plan around them, because when the deadlines are. So what we do instead, if you have any really exceptional situation, contact the Dean of Students. There's information in the welcome message on how to do it. The Dean of Students will check your documentation, contact us, and we will see what to do. Normally, what we do is that we take a note, and at the end of the class, if all of your other grades are fine, and that's an outlier, we basically just we are very lenient about that. But again, don't send us messages without contacting the students, because they have the way of contacting, of checking the documentation that we don't, and they will reach out to us. Let me just, Will, I don't know if do you have to run, or you have a few minutes?
Well, I can give you a couple minutes. Can you hear me now?
No, then let me then just yourself, and so that then you can disappear.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. I haven't actually done one of these from work in a while, and they've done a lot of security changes at work, and apparently my computer can no longer connect to Google Hangouts or YouTube Live, which are the two things that are involved here. So I had to connect from my phone. And I have to leave work early today because my daughter, one of my daughters, is graduating from college this evening, and I have to go to that, so I'm leaving work early. So I can't stay, but hi, I'm Will, and I'm one of the two head TAs, and you'll be interacting with me on office hours and Piazza throughout the semester.
All right, cool. And yeah, you'll see a lot of Will, so that's you're gonna have more chances of kind of seeing him and hearing from him. So let me just quickly finish the the summarization of the main points of the welcome message. Very, very important one: do not share your work. So, for example, something that happens that people, since we do everything through Git repositories, we have people first do the work on some public repository that they have, and then they commit it to our private repository. So first of all, except for the first assignment, really, for the second assignment, this doesn't make much sense, because I know you can work on the repository that we give you. It's just a regular repository, and there's no problem in there's no risk of making mistakes or anything like that. And second of all, if you make it available publicly, you are violating the honors code, because other people can see it. And then we've been in many cases in situations in which we see two assignments that are almost identical, and one of the two people have no idea why that happened. The other person normally, or more than one, the other people normally do. But the problem is that you're all at fault, because if you made your assignment available in a public repository and other people took it, unfortunately, that's the way the honors work. The honors code works. So that's something that you're not supposed to do. So be careful. Do not post publicly your work. Deadlines, as I said, the deadlines are typically on. We open assignments on Friday night, which means like Saturday morning Eastern time, and we close them at the same time. I know that some people don't like that. My experience is that since we switched, most students are happy with that in the end, and people tend to change their mind because doing work, at the beginning of so basically having the first weekend to do the work and the whole week to finish it up seems to work better than the other way around. And so give it a try and see how it works for you, and you might be surprised. So that's and if you can only work during the weekend, that really doesn't make a difference, because having the weekend at the beginning or having the weekend at the end doesn't really make a difference in terms of the fact that you will have a weekend to work on the assignments. Just in one case, you don't procrastinate until the very end. Other hot issue is why can't you open the assignment earlier? In some cases, we try to do it. In many cases, we have assignments that are depending on one another, so we cannot do it. And the main reason why we don't really want overlap, I know that some classes open the assignments at the beginning for the whole semester. I really don't like that. We tried it and it was horrible, because then on Piazza you get all sorts of messages and you have to kind of do context switches all the time. So in this case, there's one focused assignment. So basically one focused center of attention, let's say, every week, and people are working on that and asking about that, and the conversation works much better. And the other thing is that we really try to run this class as a regular on-campus class, meaning like we have weekly office hours, weekly TA meetings, and we converse on Piazza on a regular basis. So we do the same thing that we do with assignments on a regular class. We never release assignments in on-campus class at the beginning of the semester, and so we do the same thing here. So we ask you that you're available to work at least a few hours or some hours every week. We do the same, and we also have families, and we go on vacation, and we have emergencies, and so that's we ask you basically the same commitment that we have with respect to the class. So that's the short story, or maybe the long story about this. I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to say about this. Oh, one thing I want to mention, just in terms of Piazza interaction, I see that some people use the follow-ups and the student answer in the wrong way, which kind of creates confusion. So if you're answering a question, a student's question, feel free to use the student answer. Don't use follow-ups, because in this way, if we like the answer, we can simply, or if the answer is correct, we can simply click and endorse the answer, and we're all done. And conversely, if you're adding a follow-up, do not use the student answer, because at that point, you're basically kind of taking up the student answer no one else can answer. And unfortunately, that happens a lot. So make sure that, if it's a follow-up, use the follow-ups. If it's a student answer, use the student answer. And don't worry about, too much about, providing a wrong answer. Nothing happens. It's actually, in many cases, you find out that, it's easier to provide the right answer than the wrong answer. And so just give it a shot. If it's incorrect, we can always edit it, and nothing really bad happens. The other thing that I will ask you, a lot of the questions asked on Piazza, or at least, some questions asked on Piazza are very easily answerable through a Google search or through any kind of web search, Google, Bing, whatever is your flavor. And so give it at least a try before asking on Piazza. So there are some things for which to answer, we actually Google the question or Bing the question, and we get we simply report what we find. So make sure that you at least do that before asking. Of course, this is not doesn't count for the assignments, because the assignments normally are specific questions about what we provided. But if it's general questions about how do I add a lightweight tag on Git, you can just do a web search and you'll find it in 3 seconds. So you don't need to use Piazza and wait for our answer. So just keep in mind that that's the web is a kind of a great source of answers for all the kind of generic questions that you might ask. That's all I can think of in terms of general introduction, general information. As I said, all of that is already stated in the welcome message. Erin and Will, anything else you want to add before I answer? I think there is one question which I'm happy to answer on Piazza. Otherwise, let me know if you have any other announcement or anything you want to mention.
I finally, sorry, go ahead.
I'll actually have to go in a few minutes because my boss called a 1 o'clock meeting. But I would say the instructor endorsements, watch out for the ones that are just beside people. Like the only ones we're putting are the ones that are actually on the instructor answer or the student answer. Those other ones are badges that Piazza applies to people that go cross classes. It doesn't mean anything about the particular answer. Just since you mentioned endorsing the answers.
Yeah, that's a problem. Piazza last semester or so added this new feature that as soon as we hit good answer on one thing, now the student has a little check mark icon by them, and it looks like we're saying everything the student said was good. And no, we're just saying the one we said was good was good. So make sure if you think you're getting an answer from an instructor, make sure it's the little I and not the little check mark. Because the little check mark is something Piazza did to us, and we can't make it go away, as far as we can tell. So it doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't mean we're endorsing what that student says. The other thing I just want to add to what Alex said about not sharing code and answers and solutions and stuff. Please be aware that we're a lot more lenient on this first or second assignment because it's about learning how to do all the things you need to do with Git, and so working together and figuring out how to get it working is okay. But just because we are a little bit lenient on what you're allowed to share for this one doesn't mean we'll be similarly lenient with future assignments. So just don't get into your head that, oh, I see what is allowed now based on this one, and then next time get yourself caught.
All right. So at this point, I think we mentioned all the announcements that we want to mention and all the guidelines that we want to mention. And so the other thing I'll recommend, again, it's kind of weird to say this during office hours because people watching office hours are the people that are watching office hours. But try to watch office hours because we normally mention things about the assignments that are useful, and we assume that people are actually watching office hours. We're never gonna change the requirements for something, during office hours or kind of play tricks. But there might be something about an assignment that is mentioned, and that is, if you miss it there, you're kind of at a disadvantage with respect to other students who followed. And similar things like, read Piazza because that's also, something that is gonna, help you. And so the only question that we have for office hours, and then I think we can be done unless something else happens. I don't know. We don't have many viewers, which is understandable given the time and the short notice. Again, apologies for that. Next week and the following ones we'll try to do much better with that respect. So the question is about Git, and it says, I'm new to Git and I'm curious how tagging works. Can you give examples of how tagging is used in real-world applications? For example, can a Git repo be pulled down by tag ID? Can repos be diffed based on tag ID? So the answer is that basically tag IDs are nothing magical except that they're labels for specific commits. And in some cases, it's much easier to remember the label than remember, this, I don't remember if it's even 16-digit, octal, no, hexadecimal number. So basically, if you use tags to identify specific commits that have, for example, a special meaning, a specific release, or something that, a version that it's got something that you want to be able to recover quickly. So instead of having to search through your commits, you can just, remember the tags and use the tags. You can do a lot of things with the tags. You can diff based on tags. You can pull checkout by tag ID. There's really gazillion things you can do. If you look at the Git documentation, you'll see it. But basically, again, it's human readable labels associated to commits. So instead of having a numeric ID, you have a label, and that's it, with all the convenience that comes with that. I think that was the only question. And so at this point, I think we are done with the office hours. Normally, it's the opposite. So today was mostly introductions and announcement and just one question. Normally, it's most of the time we spend on answering questions and with a quick overview of the grades grading status at the beginning. Having said that, I guess I can just give a chance to Erin and Will to say bye before they disappear. I'll say bye as well. We'll see you next week on at the office hours and on Piazza before that.
Well, we'll both see you on Piazza, and usually these office hours are a little bit more organized and later in the day.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not used to them being during work time either, so I was not thinking about it properly. But normally they'll be in the evenings, or else Alex will be doing them by himself.
All right, then bye everybody, and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.